Hello and welcome to our webinar on preparing your business for digital transformation. I'm Michael and this is David. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm David West. I head up the technical alignment team here at Nettitude. We are responsible for auditing of our existing and potential customers, onboarding, and then carrying that through into our quarterly audit piece, which feeds into where Michael comes in.
I'm one of the virtual IT directors. I receive a quarterly audit from David and I put together recommendations for the business around IT from that.
So we're going to talk about digital transformation today, which is a buzzword I'm sure you will have come across, hence why you're here. So what is digital transformation, Michael?
I'm going to start with the goal of it for a business. So I think one of the confusions is it's easy to talk about, think of examples of digital transformation, but miss that the key piece is reworking your business or organization so that it's second nature. So it's something that you don't stop doing because technology doesn't stop changing. What you'd expect to get out of digital transformation is hopefully a competitive advantage through technology, and that's going to come around from improving your customer experience or lowering your costs. The items that you need in place to support it, that we're going to go into a bit more detail throughout the presentation today. Clarity. Leadership at the top needs to know why you're doing digital transformation. You need to know what areas you're focusing on. You shouldn't be looking at technology, you should be looking at things that you can achieve. You need to build up a strategy that has built-in continual improvement. It's something you're going to be doing long term. You need a feedback loop. You need to constantly reevaluate and add new things in. Data's an area we'll touch on. If your data that you have isn't reliable, you can't use it to make good decisions. That's a huge part of digital transformation. And finally, you need to consider the amount of change management to put in place and wrap around the digital transformation that you're doing. McKinsey, who we've taken this quote from, they say that businesses should expect for every pound that you spend on digital developments and software or implementation, you can almost expect to spend another pound on helping to implement the process changes, which is all around training and managing the expectations for as you work through the process. So in summary, digital transformation, less about how you use digital and more about how you become digital.
Digital transformation is very important, but it's very important that you don't run before you can walk. There's critical foundations that you need to get right before you start looking at the wealth of opportunities that are out there, different software, cloud solutions and things like that. But if you don't get the foundations right, you're going to face common pitfalls like unplanned outages. So what do we mean when we talk about foundations? As you'll see on this slide, firstly is cybersecurity. It's a huge buzz phrase that everybody's probably aware of over the last couple of years, has really taken off, and it's something that worries a lot of business owners, small business owners. People are reading blogs every day on the latest security threats, but it's something that if you get right and you put in place to start with, it just works in the background, and it's something that you're not distracted by. It means that you can focus on your digital transformation strategy. What we're talking about with cybersecurity, things like multi-factor authentication, so a second layer of security for your email. It means that your users aren't left vulnerable to phishing attacks and your data being taken by attackers. Quality antivirus and secure password policies, firewalls, all that sort of thing. So getting that right at the start so that you don't have to worry about it. Next is technology standardization. It's very easy as a business adapts and grows to end up with loads of different pieces of software that are really hard to keep track of. Nobody really knows what each one does. Some of them do the same things as others. You're paying for lots of software. It's hard to maintain, hard to keep a track of. Same with IT hardware, loads of different servers for this and that. So standardize your technology, get quality, robust, reliable kit in, and standardize it so that you know exactly what you've got. You've got all the same PCs, for example. So when you update them, they all get the same update. You're not doing 3 updates every week for different bits of kit. Similar to cybersecurity, it's standardizing it, getting it good is a foundation so that you're not worrying about it every day about something going wrong. So that's another key foundation. And then finally is your end user experience. By getting the first two right, your end users should have a more stable, reliable experience anyway. But you're then looking at how you can improve their day-to-day. So maybe automating certain things and giving them more opportunity to be more productive through stable and standardized technology and security. So once you've got those three foundations in place, you're ready to start your sort of digital transformation journey. And we've shown this piece because the audit that we carry out for our customers or for prospective clients as a one-off piece is what we do by default. We look at these three foundations and analyze what sort of state your business is in, what risks there are, and also what opportunities there are. So this is a key piece to getting you ready for your journey. So speaking of the audit, analysing the current state of your business is a really key part to do at the start to understand where you are and what your IT systems look like. So assessing your current state is a detailed IT audit, which is again what we've just mentioned there, to look at all aspects of your IT, to identify risk, to identify opportunity, and to give you a detailed picture of what your IT systems currently look like. You need to collect data and analytics, which allow you to identify pain points. So that might be something like looking through your IT help desk tickets to find out what the common pain points are, what's causing a problem, maybe what system is slow, it doesn't offer the functionality your users need, or it could be as simple as talking to your end users, finding out what day-to-day is a real struggle for them, or maybe what you could change in the system that's going to make their life that much easier, make a certain task quicker and easier, or even automate it. And then lastly is evaluating your business metrics. So this is a key part at the start of your journey. So what do you want to achieve as a business? Is it improving the output of your manufacturing? It might be improving your sales figures. Having those metrics and knowing what to measure the success on is going to drive what tools you choose, what systems you adopt as part of your digital transformation strategy, and allows you to measure them as you go through your journey to see whether it's actually working for you. So those are really important.
Once you know where you stand, with from the output of our audit, we put together a roadmap of things that you should address. Strong, stable foundations mean you're ready to build on them. You can't increase your use of digital without knowing that your IT is going to be up and running as much as possible.
Yeah.
The more you digitize, the bigger the impact of an outage. So the more you want to avoid it, so you can get those efficiencies that it brings. The next step is to brief the management team, brief the wider business on the possibilities for digital transformation. It's a huge area. There's lots of different technologies out there. There's lots of different things that can be done, and we can't expect everyone to always be up to date and aware of what's possible. So this is where IT can brief the management team, and we're going to help them look for use cases, not technology. If you're looking at introducing AI or Internet of Things, maybe you're not looking at the right in the right areas. What you do want to look at is how can you improve customer experience? How can you improve efficiencies? Can product development be better, faster? And can you manage your supply chain faster? The things in the technology side over there on the right will support all of those use cases, but it will be approaching that wrong way around to first grab the technology and look how to use it. You should look at a use case, and then we'll build out the tech that supports that. So as part of raising awareness, we'll look at these 4 big areas. I think in customer experience, the sort of things you'd be looking there as a sort of use case, giving clients more ways to place and manage orders with you, more ways to contact you, it makes it better for them. And with the, I think you sort of call it the Amazonification of everything, people expect delivery updates. They expect to be able to place orders at odd times of the night and to be able to track exactly when something is arriving. The technology to support is becoming more and more accessible for businesses of all sizes. Things that we specifically work with there, contact center, so not just handling client communications through the phone, but also through web chat, through email, and making it all gel together so that no matter where they contact you, they're still speaking to the same people, that history of conversations available, so you can offer a personal service. ChatGPT, huge potential there. Bit of a buzzword, it's in the news every day at the moment, it feels like, and not always for the right things. But what we can see already is that within a couple of years, you'll be able to use that to offload some of the frequently asked questions you might get through web and chat. It might be able to look up things from people's accounts and also work out when the right time is to bring in a person. That will improve any business's efficiencies when you don't need a person to handle these requests directly, and also the client experience, because they will get an answer faster and they will be happier with a faster answer. And if it's accurate enough, it doesn't matter if it's coming through a chatbot or through a person. On the operational efficiency side, this is where you would look to capture data from internet connected machines in manufacturing. It can give you, it can alert you to maintenance tasks that require that you wouldn't know about until an outage. You can use it to manage your energy costs better. On the digital side, we are looking for ways to speed up document handling, basically. If you have an account approval process, can you get a client to enter in their details in a form? Can you hand that over to the accounts team and have them review it and approve it, and automatically send out a contract to be signed? When the contract is signed, can you get it back into your document system so that when further down the line the operations team are actually working with the client, they can go back and refer to what was agreed? These are things that are all possible to do with digital technologies, but still very much done by paper in certain cases. So the kind of technology we use to support that, heavily on the Microsoft side, we move a lot of our clients to Office 365. It's an obvious choice for everyone. One, from a reliability point of view, and two, because we know that it's a building block for these sorts of things. Power Automate, the SharePoint document management, Adobe digital signatures. These are all things that you can build on and are available to most people. Within the supply chain, we're back to looking mostly at data and a little bit of robotics. So use cases you could have, if you are manufacturing something, robotics count as digital technology. Higher precision, more speed, less errors. So you're going to produce more and you're going to waste less. The areas we normally help with in these kind of things is bringing the data from these systems together in your supply chain, putting it through a business intelligence system. We use Power BI. We use it ourselves to gain a much better idea of what's happening across the business in one place. There's a lot you can do once you can actually accurately see what you have where. And in the supply chain, that will be things like, can you forecast demand better so you make better purchasing decisions? Can you keep less in inventory if you know better what's coming up? And at the moment, it may be that different teams don't even know what's happening on the other side. Product development, some newsworthy technologies. 3D printing has been popular for many years. It's finding a place in many businesses as well. You can test parts, you can produce a product that much quicker when you don't need to make guesses of what something looks and feels like in real life. That also feeds into digital design. Now that is quite widely adopted across the majority of, well, anyone working in design right now. This is CAD, this is SolidWorks, that kind of software where you can build up a digital design. What not everybody has yet is a design system where that is linked up to the rest of the team, the rest of the business.
Something like PDM, which is a SolidWorks feature. It's a centralized server, which essentially gives you things like version control. People can go back and see who's changed the file. You can keep records, and that feeds into other systems as well. So it's that next step on from having a couple of standalone computers that do your graphic design, that do your 3D design. It's centralizing that with a management server that gives you far greater control and better opportunities. So it's important to consider the challenges and risks when you're looking at digital transformation. There's so many pieces of software, so many systems out there. There seems to be new ones popping up every day, and they're all designed at catching your eye, and before you know it, you end up with 5 or 6 different systems that do similar things, and nobody really knows what they're supposed to be using. There's various challenges and risks that if you get right, you consider at the start, you'll be in the right place. So we split those into 3 main things: data security and privacy, change management, and integration with legacy systems. So starting off with data security and privacy, you need to consider the risks that are surrounding your data. It might be your business data, it might be your client's data, and what's happening with that as part of your digital transformation strategy or your move. A simple move might be you're moving your all your data from a server that lived in your office up into the cloud, into Microsoft SharePoint, for example. What data is there? Where is it being held? What are the security controls around where it's being held in the cloud? And what sort of data are you putting there? Is there personally identifiable information? Are you complying with GDPR? Are you complying with other governance and other requirements? It might be that your business, because of the nature of what you do, can only store your data in the UK or in the EU. You need to consider your cloud partner. It might be that the servers they give you are in the US. So simple stuff like that. And that falls into unintended exposure. So are you moving data that contains your customers' personal information into the cloud, and who can see it? Quite often when we do initial audits for potential clients, or just one-off audits just to give them a picture of their IT stack, they've got misconfigured cloud storage, things like Microsoft SharePoint, where we can show them that their data can actually be shared externally by anyone, and those links can be passed on externally to whoever they want. So maybe their IP or their own designs or their customer data has been shared externally. Nobody knows to who, and it goes on and on and on, and anybody can have access to that data. So it's really important to understand the risk, what type of data you're putting up into the cloud, and who can see it. Change management is a really important part that we'll touch on later as well. So when you're proposing your digital strategy and making that change, there needs to be a process in place to manage that change. So there needs to be both IT and business heads involved in that change management process. It needs to be documented. You need to be keeping a record of what's being changed, when and why, and you need to be communicating that inside the business as well, so people know what's going on. It reduces the risk of rogue IT, so people making changes without your knowing. Really, you should, when you're establishing that change management process, you should be giving everybody only the access they require to do their jobs. Is something that we call least privilege. It means that you're reducing the risk of people installing other software and starting to move your data into other systems. It might be that you started using SharePoint and somebody's got a load of business data in Dropbox because they were able to install that and move your data around. So that's a really important part. The other side is the buy-in. So a really important part of when you're forming your digital transformation strategy is getting buy-in from everybody. If you don't have that buy-in and people don't understand what you're doing and why, you end up with rogue IT. You end up with people not adopting the change that you've put in place because they don't understand it. They don't know why you've done it. They think that the system you had in the first place was better. So talking to everybody in or your key stakeholders and other people in the business to get that buy-in so that they understand what you're doing and why, and also they feel that they have a hand in what's being changed and why you're taking their needs into consideration. So that's an important part. And then lastly, we've got integration with legacy systems. So you need to consider, are you leaving some systems behind and why? Maybe there's a really important application that's used in your business. It can't go into the cloud, but you want to keep using it. It's got to run on an old server. So are you increasing your risk by running that old piece of software, either because it's old and it might just die, or it might just be that it's not getting security updates anymore and your network is at risk as a result of it. So you need to consider everything when you're moving into
this technical bit is entirely linked to that. It's expensive to change business systems. It's involved. The longer it's put off, in fact, it can become more costly to make the change further down the line. And that's this technical debt piece. So the longer you go without making a change, sometimes the more it will end up costing you when you do want to make this digital transformation effort, and it becomes a much bigger step.
Absolutely.
So this marks a halfway point. So just to check in, at this point, if you're working through and creating a strategy, we'd get you our audit of your current state. That tells you what foundation, what items you're missing from the foundation, and a roadmap to address them so you can move forward. You would have defined a vision and objectives for what you want to achieve with digital transformation. You would have looked at what competitors are doing to get their ideas, to understand whether you're an early adopter or a later adopter. We've just talked through the risks, so be aware of those risks, and you have a security governance structure in place to protect you as you increasingly go digital. The next bits we're going to talk through help build out the rest of the strategy. So from what you know to what you need to do to get there. So selecting the team, building out that technology roadmap, exactly how you're going to handle data, your success metrics, change management and communications, assigning the resources and budgets, and then finally getting to that starting point of doing your first project. We've touched on this already. The cross-functional team is really important. IT can bring ideas to the table, but they're not going to fully understand the opportunities from the business side. So you need business representatives and you need IT working together on this. You need people at the top and you need people that are doing the day-to-day job that will understand the impact of the changes. You need to get feedback from there as well.
And this will help with your buy-in piece, getting everybody on the same page, getting everybody to understand why you're going to do this, what you're hoping to achieve, and just getting everybody's buy-in essentially.
Exactly. Mix of experiences, mix of skills. You increase your chance of success that much more by bringing those different points of view together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leadership, absolutely critical in this. Just sort of talking through this, we assume that the leadership has bought into this concept of digital transformation, that they believe that there is a competitive advantage to be had, that this is the way for the business. If there are doubts, you need to identify where those are, you need to address them, you need to build up the reasons for doing this. On a practical side, roles and responsibilities. If you don't know who is accountable for these changes, if you don't know who can make the decisions and what resources to assign and what budgets to set, then it's going to fail. So these need to be documented, they need to be agreed, the people in those roles need to be aware. Training and development, a huge piece of the team. So this is that one-to-one spend almost on what you'd expect to spend on technology and what you expect to spend on getting your staff used to using that technology. If you invest too much on one side and not on another, the strategy will fail. You'll not be able to implement this properly. You need to look at what people know how to do now, and when you introduce new things, what extra they're going to need to know, what sessions you need to run, what documentation you need to provide, that lead time to ease people into the new way of doing things.
Yeah, I mean, throwing a system in and expecting people to use it is never going to work. No. And it is continual as well, especially with cloud systems that we're talking about here. They are constantly evolving. There are new features pushed out by Microsoft as part of Office 365 every week, maybe even more regularly than that. And there's a constant opportunity for learning and developing your system and taking advantage of it. So it's a continual training plan, it's a continuous learning process.
It's a really good example of it. Before, these updates rolled around every 3 years and you could defer them up to 7 years. Yeah. And back in the day, when we did Windows XP and Windows 7 changes, it was a huge effort just to prepare staff to have a different desktop layout in the morning. Yeah. So there's an advantage from this constant learning, is that smaller chunks, it's easier to ingest.
Yeah, absolutely. So selecting the right technology, we've gone through a lot already, getting your foundations right, identifying your strategy, risks to assess and avoid. And you want to start looking at what technology is actually out there, which quite often could be the first thing that people do. And that's, as we've said, is the wrong starting point. So researching your vendors and solutions, you need to conduct thorough research into the systems that are out there, what they can achieve, what some of them don't achieve. And a gap analysis is a really cool feature to use for that, or scorecards. So analysing the various tools that are out there that you think might achieve what you want to do with your digital transformation strategy. Some of them will do some things that you want, but not others. And it's analysing the differences between them to make sure you choose the right tool, because you don't want to get maybe a year or two down the line and find out that the tool that you've chosen is not ever going to fix this feature that you really want to work, but another one has got that in their roadmap. They're going to do it in a year's time. So that's a really important part. And this sort of area is where we come in with our existing customers. We can reduce risks and challenges from selecting the wrong technology. We've been doing this a long time. We've got established relationships with Microsoft, Google, sort of the biggest and best vendors there are, and a lot of experience, years of experience in migrations, digital transformation, moving people, for example, from on-premise servers that are aging up into the cloud and helping you adopt those systems. Negotiating contracts is an important part, as Michael's touched on before, getting buy-in from your key stakeholders, business owners. When you're in sort of small to medium businesses, they're going to want to know the return on investment. Is the amount of money they're laying out at the start to adopt these systems, are they going to get that return on investment? Is it the best possible deal for the business? So looking at those contracts, getting the best deal, avoiding hidden fees. A lot of cloud systems out there will sort of tie you in for 3, 5, maybe even more years at a certain price, and you'll find that actually people are paying less if they adopt it in a year's time. So it's a really important piece. And then lastly, developing the prototypes. So you might have chosen your solution, or you think that's the right one, but can you run it for a test period? Can you get the key stakeholders in the business, the heads of department, to have a look at what it's actually going to be like in real life, use it, see what's wrong, see what's right, and see what needs to be improved. It might be that you run a test with a tool and it's not the right tool, but because you've done that test and not just jumped straight in, you're in a better position. You can understand what you really need out of it, and maybe what that tool doesn't do for you, and why you need to look at something else.
There's a lot to unravel here. A good question, or something when you're looking into digital transformation, is vendors, software providers will come in and sell you on cloud. We've got the experience of sitting in those meetings and ask them what they actually mean by that. You know, are they just running a server but in a different building, or have they got the most modern practices?
Yeah, as we said before, cloud is a all-encompassing term, and it covers lots of different scenarios, I suppose. Some software and vendors will refer to something as cloud, and it's not truly cloud. It's actually just, as Michael said, a server sitting in their office.
If you move your data and your systems in, can you actually move out?
Yeah,
they don't often talk about that up front.
Yeah,
but it's a key consideration if it doesn't go well.
Absolutely.
On the contract side, with everyone we've looked at, there's a big mix here. Some people will give you higher monthly costs, but no cost to start, and others will charge a migration and consulting fee to get in, but might have a lower cost. Some will insist on starting a conversation with you and signing a longer contract, and others publish their prices freely, and they're on 30-day rolling contracts that you can demo and move in as you like. As we talked about the scorecard, you can weight what's important for you. You can cross-reference those sort of technical lock-ins, risks, against the features that they offer that you want, and work out who stands out as a clear choice. Data strategy is a separate strategy, a sub-strategy within the wider digital transformation strategy. You may be looking at use cases. This is something that's probably going to be churning away in the background, whatever you do. The idea here is that as you put more and more things into systems, there is data there. If you can view it and report on it, then you can start to make decisions about what you do in the future based on actual trends, what actually happens. Gut feeling and experience are important, but anybody that's making big decisions will want to know that it's also backed up by actual data. And you can't score your success, you can't track your success unless you know that you can actually measure what's happened. So the 3 things that you want to plan out here: centralization of data. Is everything in separate apps? Will you ever be able to marry it all up and see it in one place? We think so in the majority of cases. It's not a case you're always going to have to export something to Excel from one place and something from another Excel, and then do a VLOOKUP and then wonder why when you get to the management meeting none of the numbers come out right. You can automate that. We can make it all appear to work together. Once you start putting things in one place, then the question of reliability comes into it. So you can start to see the trends where things don't match up, where the numbers in one system don't match the other. And you've got a piece there to work out how to get your data consistent so that when you do use it to make decisions, you can feel confident that you're not being misled by dodgy data entry. And finally, the bit that sits on top of this is the analysis and insights. So there we got a screenshot of Power BI, Microsoft's business intelligence platform. Really next level reporting compared to running it through Excel, which is a lot of people do. Those charts, those graphs, you can have them coming from all different places. You can filter, you can select, you can drill down into a quarter, into a month, into a week, by a person, by a product. There's a lot you can do, and a lot of trends and insight that you can pull out by having that flexibility that you just don't get from the older tools like Excel.
Yeah, absolutely. And Power BI, that tool is part of Office 365. Millions and millions of companies are in Office 365 but are only really using it for email, maybe a little bit of file storage. This is a tool that, as well as many others, are there and waiting to be used, and you can plug just about anything into that application and make use of the data. Microsoft provide online training for free that you can skill up, or upskill rather, your team to become Power BI experts, to get the most out of the data that is sitting in other systems that you're already using. It made a massive difference for us a couple of years ago when we really adopted it, and it's now used for reporting, even down to weekly, across all parts of our business. It's an amazing tool.
Yeah, single source of truth. Everybody is looking at the same numbers and working from the same sheet.
So how do you measure the success of your digital transformation once you've got the ball rolling? So we, at the start of the presentation, we mentioned key metrics. Those are important to measure the success of your digital transformation strategy, to measure the success of the tool that you've opted to go with. You need to have those in place to start with, so that once you adopt your tool and you start using it every day, you can understand as to whether it's actually doing what you thought it was going to do. Is it improving your sales figures? Is it improving your manufacturing output? Have you managed to automate certain tasks that free up the time of a couple of engineers or a couple of people to do other things that are more important? So those metrics that you established at the start of your journey, you need to be tracking them continuously, and that feeds into that analysis and reporting and data piece that Michael's just touched on. That will help you make sure you're on track, and also identify areas that you need to improve on, because you're not going to be able to put a new tool in and it's just going to be perfect straight off the bat. You're going to need to look at your metrics, identify from reporting, make tweaks, and get it really working for you. And that leads into revisiting your goals. So what were they at the start? What do you really want to achieve? What metrics do you want to see coming down or maybe going up? And you need to adjust those as you move forward with these new tools, new systems you're going to be using. And lastly, celebrating your successes, sharing them with the team. And that might not be at the end of the process. It might be weekly. It might be that we've started using this tool and we're starting to see this improvement. Again, it's that sort of buy-in aspect of it. It's letting people know that because of the information they've given you to adopt the right product, you're seeing improvements, you're saving people time, you're making people's lives easier, and we're going to be continuing to improve the product to drive that forward. So celebrating the success is a constant thing, really. It's not just that we finished the end of the project, we've migrated, great. It's important to keep reviewing and keep celebrating, and keep identifying areas of improvement, really.
So we've talked through these points, and if you are building out this strategy, what we really recommend is actually using a prompt sheet like the one we've built out here. So we've got all of the points we've talked through. You need to document it as you work through it. The reasons to do this are to make sure you've covered all the areas. You know, you've done the inputs, you've done the research, you've got the results of an audit, you know what readiness tasks you need to address, you know the budget, you know how long it's going to do that, and then you can start about thinking about what comes afterwards. If you have a prompt sheet, you've got your vision, your objectives on there, you've got your goals, you've got the things you want to hit. At the start, it's something you can get the management team, the board to sign off. Basically, you can come back to it on a quarterly, monthly basis, whatever reporting cadence you've chosen, and don't be afraid to make adjustments to it. The important thing is that you can see what you intended at the outset and you can see where it's going. And as we've pointed out, like the whole way through, it's continued improvement. It's not getting stuck. If something's not working, it's very much open, positive feedback and adapt, because, you know, part of digital transformation is just building up that ability to adapt quickly as time goes on. This is a sort of taking that first step. So you've planned it out, you've got your ideas, you know what the priority areas are for you. You've chosen an area, a process, or a function, a part of the customer journey that you say this is going to make a big difference, and it's easily achievable. You want to communicate to all employees, to everybody, to, you know, that vision, that bigger idea, to let them know what's happening, let them know how to feed back into it, and you know, provide the start of a chain where you can come back and share those successes. Pick a pilot project. This is a really good idea to get people used to that continual improvement loop. Tell people that this is the first one, that this is a trial, not just of the technology and not just of improving the process, but the whole digital transformation strategy and loop itself, and get that feedback and build it straight back into your strategy. Once you've done that first one, you have that bit more real world experience under your belt, to have a better idea how to increase your chance of success on the next projects and next steps. So recapping, the goal of digital transformation is to stay ahead of the competition in today's fast-paced markets. They're fast-paced because of technology. If you're not using it to keep up, you will slowly stay behind, and depending on the industry, that might take a long time. We talked about technological debt. The longer that gap is before you start adopting some of these technologies, in fact, the more expensive, the harder it can be to catch up and build the competencies to introduce technology. The process at a high level is to start with a technology audit that will straight away give you a roadmap of the steps of the areas that you need to address to build the foundations. So don't run before you can walk. We will help people by carrying out that audit, by telling you what you need to do there. From there, identify the opportunities. Where in the business can you benefit from the things that technology can provide? What are the risks? You know, the general ones, we talked about them: GDPR, moving your data in, you know, knowing where things are, not accidentally overexposing it, keeping people, having that change management process in place is a big risk and challenge. If that, alongside the other technical risks, isn't in place, then the risk there is of not succeeding. Those opportunities and risks go together to build out your strategy that we've talked through, the team, the measurable objectives, the technology you're going to pick, the data strategy, and that should lead you to a point where you've got a pretty clear project you want to pilot that you feel comfortable as a good win to start sharing those successes with the team. And straight off the back of that, it is into improvement, and you basically roll around back to the front and keep going like that.
Yeah, and it is about that continual loop, as we touched on several times in this webinar. When you're adopting cloud digital transformation sort of products, they are continually evolving, and there are always new opportunities. So it's not a process of changing from your old system to a new one and you're done. It's good to keep abreast of what's changing with those systems, what's available to you, and how they might improve your business processes and outputs as well.
And that's exactly what we're set up and designed to do. We'll provide that initial audit, we'll update it, we'll brief you on new technologies, and as you come to us with ideas for digital transformation, we'll help you vet them, we'll help avoid some of the risks and pitfalls and really build out, increase the chance of successfully introducing new technologies. Thank you for attending.
Hopefully it's been useful for you. If you have any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you soon on our next webinar.